Hey, all you proud early educators out there. Happy Saturday and welcome to our teacher's workshop. Today is Saturday, October 17th. We're expecting a really big group today, so I am super excited for all of you to join me. And we're going to talk about engagement techniques in the classroom today. So as everyone is getting on board, I'll kind of go over how our Saturday workshops work. Many of you have already participated in several of our virtual events, so you know how this works. But we also have a lot of new people that are joining us today and some really large groups that are watching this presentation together today. So that's exciting. So the way this works is that we're on Facebook Live. You have the opportunity to interact with me by typing in questions or comments. I've got a hello and good morning already, a couple of good mornings. Hi, everybody. So you get the opportunity to interact with me, which is what makes today's event instructor-led with childcare licensing. We're going to do a presentation today, have a little bit of some conversation about engagement in the classroom. And at the end of today's presentation, I will post 2 links to complete an online worksheet. If you have an account set up with me, there will be a link for our online account holders. If you don't have an account and you're going to pay for your certificate with a credit card, there is a link for that. All right. There are 10 questions that are on the online worksheet that are about today's presentation. Your answers must reflect the material that we're going to discuss today. If your answers don't reflect the material that we discussed today, then your worksheet may be rejected. So I'm going to try to tell you during the presentation when we come across a question that you'll see on your online worksheet. So I'm going to try to set you up for success, all right? So there you go. Good morning, everybody. Look at this amazing crowd that we have today. This is so exciting, so exciting. All right, so engagement techniques in the classroom. Probably one of the most important things that we do while working with our young children. And those of you that have been in my previous workshops, we talk a lot about connections and forming that relationship with the child. And when the adult is in when the child is in a relationship with the adult, they are more likely to meet expectations. So the way we engage is critical. All right. So I'm going to go over today really quickly some expectations from childcare licensing when it comes to engagement and interactions. We're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to use your lesson plan as a roadmap to engagement. And then I'm going to go over what I call the 10 steps to successful engagement in your classroom. And this is applicable to any age group that you work with. So whether you're working with infants, toddlers, preschool, pre-K, school-age children, we've had a lot of engagement with these school-age kids here lately. They've needed us so bad, so bad. So this is going to be applicable to everybody. Even the administrators that are on our workshop today, very, very applicable to you in the way you interact with your employees, with your clients, with the community. So I got something for everybody today. I hope you're ready. All right, let's go ahead and kick in there. Now, there are no worksheets for these virtual trainings, all right? So there's no worksheet for you to follow along with. You get to take notes on what is important to you, all right? Now, I'll probably tell you, hey, you might want to write this down. If you're a note taker, write this down. But, there's no worksheet to go along with. It's kind of up to you to keep your own notes. So here we go. Like I said, I wanted to start off today because y'all know me. I'm all about, the minimum standards and childcare regulations. I want to always make sure that you're in compliance with licensing. So I put a big focus on regulations on everything that we do. And we're going to use the general responsibilities of caregivers as kind of the foundation of today's presentation. Because while we're engaging with the children and we're making those connections with the children, it's very important that we stay in compliance with licensing and that we keep everyone safe. All right? I see a comment on Facebook. Let me address this. There is no Zoom today. All right? There is no Zoom login. Everything today is 100% on Facebook Live. All right? I kind of felt the need. There was no need to do both platforms. Facebook Live is working perfectly fine. It's free for everybody. And so there was really no reason to have two different platforms. So I eliminated Zoom. All right, Zoom got voted off the island for this. So if you're watching me on Facebook Live, you're in good shape. All right. So this is in the Child Care Minimum Standards, the chapter on general responsibilities of caregivers. I'm going to really quickly go through this because you all should be familiar with it. But again, this is the foundation for engagement. All right, so when we go through our 10 steps of engagement in the classroom, we got to keep all of this in mind right here. Okay? So the first thing is that you must know and comply with the standards. Hey, I see a comment. Let me say this again. I just said this about 2 minutes ago, but at the end of today's course, you will complete an online worksheet. And after you complete your online worksheet, I will email a certificate to you. All right? So you have that opportunity to earn your certificate of completion at the end of the course. All right? So there you go. So you must know and comply with the standards. That's one of the reasons why I tie minimum standards into everything, all right? Because it is our job to know and comply with this. You must know which children you're accountable for, all right? Now, proper attendance tracking, keeping them safe and healthy, but also you know who to engage with. We're going to take this and I'm going to apply it in a couple of different areas too, because when we talk about know which children you are accountable for, it's okay, Brandy, don't worry about it. When you talk about which children you are accountable for, you're going to hear me say several times today, 5 minutes of one-on-one time with each child each day reduces your power struggles by 50%. So half of the problems that you're having in your classroom can be eliminated simply by spending 5 minutes of one-on-one time with each child each day. Now, when we're talking about the minimum standards, know which children you are accountable for, okay? I encourage you to keep a little list in your pocket of the children that you have present that day. Spend 5 minutes with each child, cross them off, okay? And make sure that you have that one-on-one time with each child while properly supervising the rest of the group, and we're going to talk about that, all right? Make sure that you know the children's name and age. Y'all know that when you call someone by their name, all right, it actually releases endorphins in the brain. We get joy juice when someone calls us by name. Now, I am 100% guilty of this. I'm the first to admit. I am really bad about going into the classroom and saying things like, hey, buddy, or hey, sweetie, and using some of those terms of endearment right there. We got to be careful with that, all right, because the children need to be called by their actual names, all right, and same thing with adults too. That's why when we do director and administrator training, I really stress the importance of calling parents by their name, all right, because we want that joy juice that is released from the brain whenever you do that. All right, licensing is going to expect you to know, every child's name and their age so that you're delivering developmentally appropriate interactions and developmentally appropriate engagement. And then the child is in, of course, child-staff ratio based on their age. All right. Yesterday in our director's workshop, there was a comment made about floaters. So I really wanted to make sure I addressed floaters in today's presentation as well. I believe that the floater is one of the most important positions in the school. It's also one of the hardest positions, all right? You have to be aware of every single child. You have to have that connection with every single child in the building, know their name, know their age, and you have to have the skills and the abilities to perform the duties required for each individual age group. Not just one age group, all of them. So those of you that are floaters out there, high five to you, all right? High five to you, because that's a tough job, all right? Especially when we're talking about engagement today, and we're going over the 10 steps. You got to have a lot of skills, In my opinion, probably the best teacher in the building should be your floater, all right? Because there's a lot of skills that have to be there for you to do that, all right? Now, going back to the general responsibilities of caregivers, it also says that you must supervise children at all times, making adjustments to the different ages and abilities. So this is another reason why I wanted to start today with minimum standards, because what I have seen in the past is teachers that are trying to engage with children and have that 5 minutes of one-on-one time, but then they drop the ball with supervision of the rest of the class. So it's very important that we use techniques that allow us to engage with each individual child while maintaining the supervision and the safety of the rest of the classroom. And I have seen lots of schools that have been cited for supervision. And it wasn't because the teacher was being negligent, but the teacher was trying to work with one individual child and kind of forgot about the rest of the room. All right? Not really forgot about them, but the attention wasn't on the rest of the room. Okay? I think I've told some of y'all this story before, but a long time ago, it was like 1992, I was working, I was a director of a program out in East Dallas, and the company that I worked for, the president of the company had come to Dallas to observe some schools. My school was a top performer, and so they came to visit my facility. I was all super proud and ready to show off and everything. And as I was showing him around the facility, he stood at the door of one classroom and just stood there. And I kept saying, "Oh, is there something I can help you with?" And he just stood there. Finally, after about 10 minutes, he turns to me and he says, "Do you see that teacher right over there? I want her fired by the end of the day." I was like, "What? Why?" She was one of the best people in the building, He goes, "I've been standing here for 10 minutes, and she has been working with 2 children at a table, and her back was to the rest of the classroom. And for 10 minutes, she has never turned around, not once, to check on the rest of the kids behind her." And he is like, "I want her fired by the end of the day." So I was like, ooh, that was a big lesson for me. And after I thought about it, after I got over my shock, I was like, he's right. I mean, for 10 minutes, she had her back to the rest of the classroom. Who knows what could have gone on back there? So, ever since then, I'm like, okay, we really got to talk about placement in the classroom, and when you are doing a small group activity or engaging with one child, your placement, and where are you sitting or squatting to where you can work with this one child, but then also supervise the rest of the group. So placement has always been a big deal with me ever since that moment with that president in 1992. The next thing on the general responsibilities of caregivers is that it says that children must not be out of control. All right? That's what today is all about, engagement. And when we talk about keeping children in control, your engagement is what's going to make this happen. Basically, keeping the children busy and keeping them engaged, all right, keeping them interested. When your kids are busy and engaged and interested in the activities that you have going on in your classroom, they will be safe. When they're not engaged, all right, when they're not busy, when they don't feel connected, then they don't feel safe. And that's when everything goes down the toilet. Literally. All right? So your engagement is a big step in maintaining control of the classroom. We're going to talk about this a lot today. All right? Right there. Of course, with child care minimum standards, you must be free from other duties that do not relate to the supervision and interaction of children, such as administrative duties, meal preparation, janitorial duties, and in personal use of electronic devices such as cell phones, smartwatches, and video games. All right, most of our video games are on our phone now, so but we still have that listed as a separate category. So you want to make sure that those personal devices are put away so that you are engaged with the children. Now, one of my concerns here, and we almost need a whole separate workshop for this, is that a lot of you are using tablets in the classroom now for attendance tracking, for assessments, for all kinds of different things. All right, in the classroom. We're part of Texas Rising Star, and 2 of my schools we just got 10 tablets each for being part of Texas Rising Star. And there's some really cool opportunities for the teachers to use these tablets with different platforms. We want to make sure that those electronic devices, even though they're being used for the classroom, that they don't discourage engagement, that these tablets don't take our attention away from the children. So I really want y'all to do some self-reflection on how much time are you spending on that tablet, and is your focus on that electronic device or is your focus on the children? All right, whatever it is that you're doing on the tablet should be boop boop done. All right, quick and easy right there. And remember, we do have new standards coming out any day now. I keep waiting for the email any day now. We have new standards coming out on screen time. So, if you are using that tablet for educational purposes, remember that you cannot use any type of screen time for children under the age of 2. None. All right. Children over the age of 2, it's limited to 1 hour a day. All right, 1 hour a day. Now the big question I get right here is, well, we use our tablets for music. That's okay because the child's not looking at the screen. All right, so if you're using it for music, that's okay. But it's the screen time that we've got some regulations on. Great. And then just again, follow up on that. The new standard is going to also say that school-age children doing homework will not be considered screen time. So that's going to be very helpful for those of you that are doing virtual learning assistance. All right. I see a lot of you that are typing in people's names. That's not necessary. All right. You don't have to type in every participant's name. So I'm going to save y'all some time and some focus. There's no need for that. You're going to complete an online worksheet at the end of today's presentation, and that's how I'm going to gather all of your information. All right, so no need to be posting individual names in the comment screens. All right, it says that you must interact with children in a positive way. And again, that's what today is all about. We're going to go through 10 steps of positive engagement with your children. The biggest thing I want to focus on here is your body language, all right? When it comes to interacting with children in a positive way, I want you to be very conscious of your body language and your tone. That's what typically gets us in trouble. is our body language and our tone. It's not the words that are coming out of our mouth. Sometimes it's the words coming out of your mouth. But it's the body language and tone that will typically send a signal to the children that we're not safe. All right? So there you go. All right. There's a big long comment. I can't read that. All right. So it also says foster developmentally appropriate activities in there. So we're going to talk about that a lot today. Communicate with other staff members. So some of you, there's multiple staff members in your classroom. You're not by yourself. You've got somebody else in there with you. You make sure that when you're communicating with the other staff members, you do this discreetly. All right? Remember, when you're talking to your co-teacher, all of the children in the classroom can hear you. All right? They can hear you and they can understand you. So if you're making derogatory comments or negative comments, you're complaining about a child, you're complaining about another coworker, you're complaining about the director, those kids are listening to every bit of this. All right? So when you're communicating, all right, with your coworker, remember that. Okay? Remember that. Make sure you know the indoor and outdoor layout of your program. This is where I talked about placement. You want to know where your blind spots are. So, one of the homework assignments I have for you after today's presentation is I really want you to get down on your hands and knees and crawl around your classroom so that you can see the classroom from the child's perspective. Know where your blind spots are, and that's going to be important when we talk about engagement, when you're having that one-on-one time with a child, that you know that there's an area of the classroom that other kids could get into and get into some trouble right there. Great. All right, so let's talk now about your lesson plan or your activity plan, that type of stuff right there. Your lesson plan is your roadmap, all right? Your lesson plan is, the secret to success right here. So many times we try to run our classrooms off the top of our head, and we just try to wing it, all right? And, anytime you try to wing it, you just walk in there and you're going to do whatever, you typically fail, all right? Or you have a very, very stressful, chaotic day. When you have your lesson plan, okay, and it's broken up, hour by hour, you know exactly what you're going to be doing, and then you stick to your lesson plan. The more you stick to your lesson plan, the more engagement opportunities you will find. Lesson plans are not meant to make your job more difficult. Lesson plans and activity plans are meant to make your job easier, all right? It's your blueprint. It's your roadmap, all right? In my opinion, you've already got your clipboard, that you probably carry around with you, and your clipboard has, your roll call sheet and your attendance sheet or transaction sheet, those type of things. I think a copy of your lesson plan needs to be on that clipboard too, all right? And I'll look for that. Is there a copy of the lesson plan accessible to the teacher so that you know what you should be doing at what time? But this is your secret to success. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel when the wheel is right here. All right? So this is a worksheet question. All right? I told you that I would tell you when we come across a worksheet question. But you're going to see a question on there that talks about, how is your lesson plan going to be a benefit to you? All right? But it's basically your documentation to success. So very good. And I know some of you write really beautiful, fantastic lesson plans. They're only as good as they're implemented. All right? You can write a beautiful lesson plan all day long, but if you don't implement the activities that are on it, it's worthless. It's garbage. All right? So, they're only as good as they're implemented. So what should be included in your lesson plan as far as licensing is concerned? All right. Of course, the group that the activity plan or lesson plan is designed for. You want to have a variety of activities throughout the day, so you don't want to do the same thing all day long. You want a variety. Of course, indoor and outdoor activities where children use small and large muscles. Remember, we have new standards coming out any day now about physical activity. So your activity and lesson plan must include 90 minutes of physical activity, all right? Both moderate and vigorous physical activity. I love that, especially today when we're talking about engagement. What a wonderful way to engage with your children by using physical movement, all right? When we sing and when we dance, we connect. Even as adults, is that not true? When we sing and when we dance, we connect, all right? It's a very, very right brain activity that makes people feel safe, all right? So that's cool right there. A balance of active and quiet play. So, you know, the kids, they're going to be kids. You're going to have controlled chaos from time to time. But that quiet time is also very, very important. And I'm sure many of you have had parents that have come in and said, oh, I don't want my kid to take a nap today, you know. Well, that's very, very critical, all right? Very, very critical that they have that little downtime, all right? But it's also required by licensing right there. Of course, regular meal and snack times, supervised nap times we just talked about, and then both child-initiated and adult-initiated activities. This is probably the most misunderstood standard right here. I actually have a training coming up, and it's in November. I just posted it on my website the other day. But it's going to be another Friday director workshop and Saturday teacher workshop. So today's not the last one. We have another one coming up in November. But I'm going to do a whole Friday and Saturday series on minimum standards and the most misunderstood standards in the book. The most misunderstood and the most cited standards in the book. All right? And so this is going to be one that we talk about, where it talks about both child-initiated and adult-initiated activity. Child-initiated activities is not free play, all right? Is not free play. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make in your classroom is to give a child free play, all right? Those of you that attended my workshop 2 weeks ago, we talked about, you know, children with signs and symptoms pointing to a special need. Children with challenging behaviors. They must have structure, they must have routine, they must have predictability. One of the most important things that we can establish in our early education classrooms is predictability. All right? The child has to know what's coming. When you just have free play, all right, everyone, run, go choose a center. All right? There's no predictability. There's no structure. All right? So, when we talk about child-initiated activities, this is when we go, Destiny, you can go to the Art Center and paint with feathers, or you can go to the Block Center and build roads and bridges, or you can go to the table and play with the manipulatives, the gears, all right? I gave Destiny 3 choices, all right? That's child-initiated. She's going to choose the best choice for her, all right? And not only did because if y'all notice, I didn't say you can go to art, you can go to blocks, or you can go to the table, all right? I took it one step further with my engagement. You can go to the Art Center and paint with feathers, you can go to the Block Center and build roads and bridges, or you can go to the table and play with the gears, all right? So I gave that predictability, but it's still child-initiated. All right, good stuff. You have to practice this. It's almost like a script. All right, but once you get into the swing of saying it, it just becomes natural. Now that you add that extra step right there. Destiny asked a question about going back to outside time. With the 90 minutes of physical activity, does outside time count towards that? Yes, it does. Very good question right there. So if you have 60 minutes of outside time throughout the day, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the afternoon, and we are required to have 90 minutes of physical activity, 60 minutes of that 90 is going to be outside. So that's going to just give you 30 minutes of physical activity that you're going to have to build into your day. So maybe 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the afternoon, you're in good shape. All right? Where you're going to have to be creative with this is on days that you can't go outside. All right? So there you go. All right, and then of course, sufficient amount of time for children to complete their activities, to learn at their own pace, and no long waiting periods between each activity. Now, when you look at this in the child care minimum standards, they kind of contradict each other a little bit because it says sufficient amount of time for children to complete their activities at their own progress, but then it says no long waiting periods between activities. And I know what a lot of you are thinking. Every child works at a different pace. So you're doing an activity in your classroom, it takes Johnny, 10 minutes, but then Susie is over here, and it takes her 30 minutes because she's very, very particular and she's got a lot of attention to detail. And, you're sitting here giving Susie adequate amount of time to complete the activity at her own pace, but Johnny's been done now for a while and he's ready to go to something else. All right? So, again, this is where your lesson plan is so important right here, because you're going to have other activities ready for that child that finishes sooner, all right? So that they can continue to be engaged in something that is interesting to them, all right? Something that is interesting to them. This is why, I say this in so many of my teacher workshops. You got to reach them before you can teach them. You got to know your children's interest, especially when you've got that child that is challenging. Find out what their interests are. And you're going to stock your classrooms with some material that is specific to that child's interest. That way you keep them engaged, or you help them find a new interest, all right? And the way we do that is by having that one-on-one time with the child, 5 minutes of one-on-one time each day. And you're going to find things that you have in common with that child, all right? Once we find out what we have in common with another person, we almost instantly connect, all right? How many of y'all have ever been to a social gathering? You had to go to a happy hour or a social gathering and you didn't really know anybody there. And some of you, might struggle with social anxiety, very, very uncomfortable situation. That's definitely true for me. I get very uncomfortable when I'm around a lot of people I don't know in a social gathering. And then, you see somebody, they kind of look friendly, and then you notice that they're wearing a Star Wars t-shirt. I love Star Wars. I'm going to go talk to that person, So as soon as you find that common interest, it's easier to engage with that person, or whatever it may be, a Dallas Cowboys jacket or whatever. But that common interest draws us together. You're going to do the same thing in your classroom. When you're engaging with your children and you're interacting and connecting, all right? The way you reach these kids is by finding something you have in common with them, all right? You like dinosaurs? Oh my gosh, I love dinosaurs. Which one is your favorite, And boom, you just got the kid. All right. One of your worksheet questions is going to be, what are the 6 key ingredients to engagement? All right. The 6 key ingredients to engagement. So those of you that are taking notes, this is a wonderful note-taking opportunity for you because you're going to be asked this on your worksheet. All right. So, the first key ingredient to engagement, the first one, is the characteristics of the individual staff member. So basically, your personality, all right, is a key ingredient to engagement. When I talk about characteristics of, individual staff members, all of us that work in this business, we're caregivers, all right? We like working with young children, all right? So we give off that vibe. We give off that energy, all right? Those of you that have been participating in my virtual workshops, we've talked a lot here lately about the electromagnetic energy that comes off of your heart. And when you have a true passion, a true feeling in your heart, all right, there's actually electromagnetic energy that flows off of you. And anyone standing, 6 to 10 feet from you can feel that, all right? It's scientifically proven. So, being passionate about being an early educator, being a proud early educator, all right, is actually going to help your engagement because you're in that classroom for a reason, all right? It's not a job, it's a purpose, all right? And when you walk into that classroom with a purpose, you're going to be amazed at the difference in your engagement, all right? Because that purpose is going to throw energy off, all right? And those kids are going to feel safe and they're going to come to you, all right? Now, y'all remember that movie, Monsters Incorporated? Probably one of my favorite, Pixar movies out there. But y'all remember the ogre lady that they were all scared of? They had to turn their paperwork into her, and she had the real, deep, scratchy voice and everything. We don't want one of those ogre ladies in our classroom, all right? People are afraid of her. People are afraid to connect. They're afraid to engage. So, when you walk into your classroom each morning, I want you to think about your characteristics. Are you walking into that classroom with passion and purpose? Or are you walking into that classroom a big ogre lady? All right? So you got to think about that. Now, we are all human. All right? We are all human. We all have drama. We all have garbage. We all wake up on the wrong side of the bed. All right? And we can be in a poopy mood. And it's okay to be in a poopy mood. It's human. But before you step into that classroom, you got to let go of the garbage. You got to put the drama aside, and we got to get rid of that poopy mood. All right? Because if I walk into that classroom with negativity and with hatred in my heart, guess what's going to be coming off? And anyone 6 to 10 feet from me, that's what they're going to feel. Is that negativity, that hatred, that disappointment, that anxiousness, whatever it is that you've got going on in your world. So being a proud early educator is an individual that has the characteristic to be able to put that stuff aside, all right, when they walk into their classrooms. Big one right there. And I know many of you, many of you, you work with young children because you don't want to work with adults. I get it, I completely get it. And, I can't tell you how many employees that I've had over the years that were wonderful in the classroom, but when it came to communicating with the parent, it was horrible, all right? Because they had great engagement with the children, but just not good skills with the adult. And I get it, all right? We still need to work on it. But I understand that's a big characteristic for a lot of you, and probably even me a little bit, all right? The second key ingredient to engagement. So the first one was the characteristics of the individual staff member. The second is age-appropriate conversations. Let's everyone take a deep breath on that one. Age-appropriate conversations. When you're working with your young children, whether you're infants, toddlers, preschool, pre-K, school age, it is so incredibly important that the conversations you're having are age-appropriate. All right? We don't want to have conversations that make the children scared or afraid or anxious. All right? Now, we've been talking about this a lot over the last 8 months with the pandemic and having to wear the mask and having to follow enhanced health practices. We're having to do a lot more disinfecting and sanitizing in the classroom. You know, I've really been coaching the teachers. You have to be very careful what you're saying. All right? And especially if you're complaining about having to wear the mask or you're complaining about having to do more sanitizing and disinfecting, and you're doing that in front of the children. Number one, that's not age appropriate. Number two, you're instilling fear. All right? You're instilling fear into that classroom. So, you know, be very conscious of what you say and how you say it. And it's okay for us to vent our frustrations. 100% it's okay for us to vent our frustrations, but you have to do it in an appropriate place with the appropriate people. And doing it in front of the children is not going to be helpful. It's going to be hurtful. All right? But when we are talking to the kids, make sure that they're age-appropriate conversations. All right? Very good. So, key ingredients to engagement. The first one is the characteristic of the individual staff member. The second one is age-appropriate conversations. The third key ingredient to engagement is having a mixture of both child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations. So, having a mixture of child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations. The adult should not be the dominant voice in the classroom. All right? The adult should not be the dominant voice in the classroom. It should be a balance between child and adult. So many times I observe classrooms and I hear the adult tell the child not to talk. All right? Or to stop talking. Ugh, we need to work on that. All right? The kids have really great things to say. They have a lot to share with us, especially when we talk about engagement and you've got to reach them before you can teach them. All right? Having that conversation with the child, an open-ended conversation, make sure that your conversations are open-ended, all right, is going to be very beneficial, and you're going to be connecting the whole time you're doing this. When we talk about a mixture of child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations, you know, I challenge you to eliminate questions in your classroom that are yes or no questions, all right? I really challenge you to have more open-ended questions whenever you're engaging with the children, all right? When you have open-ended questions, this is going to create a conversation. If you ask a child just a simple yes or no, you're going to get a one-word answer. All right? What we're trying to encourage here is conversation. And you get a conversation out of open-ended questions. All right? Now, again, you've got to practice this skill. You've got to practice this technique to try to get out of the habit of asking yes or no questions. We want to focus on those open-ended questions right there. Now, last month I did a Saturday workshop on positive guidance and discipline. Some of you attended that. If you were not able to attend my workshop on positive guidance and discipline, you can go back to my website, timthetrainer.com, and the recording is there. You can watch it. It's also on Facebook if you go to videos. But all of our Friday, Saturday workshops, our Tim at 10s, they are all recorded and available for viewing after the fact if you need to. And you can still get a certificate for it with those recordings. But when I did my workshop on positive guidance and discipline, I had asked the teachers what were some of the most common behaviors that was a trigger for them. And several people answered children that talk back or children that argue. All right? And I wanted to bring that back up today because here we are talking about the key ingredients to engagement, and I'm telling you to have a mixture of child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations. What turns a conversation into an argument? All right? Because typically when you have a child arguing with you or you have a child that is talking back, it was initiated as a conversation that turned into an argument. All right? This is no different than with adults. All right? So what is it that changes something from a conversation to an argument? Well, body language and tone of voice. All right? Body language and tone of voice is what turns something from a conversation to an argument. And if you really want to be honest with yourself and you do some self-reflecting, you're going to find that it is typically the adult that turns it into the argument, not the child. All right? The child will respond to the adult because we have mirror neurons in our brain. All right? We're going to talk about that when we get to the 10 steps here in a minute. But we have mirror neurons in our brain that we basically will repeat or pattern after the other person. So if the adult loses their composure and they change their body language and change their tone, the mirror neurons in the brain for the child, it's going to change their body language and tone too. All right? So that's where we practice composure right there. All right, so key ingredients to engagement. The first one was characteristics of individual staff members. The second one was age-appropriate conversations. The third, child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations. The fourth is that you interact while maintaining supervision. All right, so the teacher interacts with the child while maintaining the supervision and health and safety of the other children in the room. All right, so this is where I talked about placement already, being aware of your group. I want y'all to spend 5 minutes of one-on-one time with each child each day, but you're going to do this strategically. You're going to make sure that all of the other children are engaged in an age-appropriate activity so that you can spend 5 minutes with that one child, and then on and on and on. But you've got to make sure that you're placing yourself in a way that you can still maintain supervision of the rest of the group. All right? The children need to feel safe in your classroom. Number 5 is that staff maintain guidance of the group. All right? So that kind of goes right along with them. 4 and 5 go hand in hand. All right? We're going to make sure that the children are engaged in other activities, all right, while you're doing that one-on-one time. And the 6th key ingredient to engagement is communication between the staff members. All right? I know that you may not like each other, but you got to talk to each other. All right? If you're working together, you got to be able to communicate. Now, I hope you like each other. All right, whoever your co-teacher is or whoever is assisting you in that classroom right now, I hope that there is a bond and a connection between the two of you. That's very, very important when it comes to classroom management. Again, those of you that have been in my previous workshops, we've talked about this. The way adults treat each other has a bigger impact on a child's self-esteem than the way the adult treats the child. And that's not just parents we're talking about, all right? It's the way you and your coworker work with one another, the way you communicate with one another, all right? That connection that you have, all right? Has a huge impact on the children's self-esteem. If you've got a coworker in your classroom and you don't like them, all right, you're probably going to have some classroom management issues because the kids aren't feeling safe. All right, kids aren't feeling safe. All right. So yeah, I kind of did number 5 really fast, didn't I, Martha? So number 5 was staff maintains guidance of the group. So I'll go over the 6 key ingredients one more time for you. Characteristics of individual staff members, age-appropriate conversations, a mixture of child-initiated and adult-initiated conversations, interact with children while maintaining supervision of the group, staff maintains guidance of the group, and then communication between staff members. Those are your key ingredients. All right? Very good. So there's your review of number 5 for you. Sorry, I did go fast on that one. But like I said, 4 and 5 kind of go hand in hand. All right, let's go over the 10 steps of good engagement, proper engagement in the classroom. And I think that you're going to find these very, very helpful right here. So step number 1 on engagement techniques is that teachers engage frequently with children, showing affection, interest, and respect. You mean I gotta respect the kids? Yeah. All right. Remember, respect is a two-way street. All right. If you want that child to respect you, you have to respect them first. All right. And respect is something that has to be earned. It's not something that is immediately given. So that's important for you to understand right there. Now, the other thing when we talk about, teachers engage frequently with children, showing affection, interest, and respect. One other thing we know about the human brain, especially for our young children, is that what adults do to young children will do to each other. All right? So the way we interact with the children creates the blueprint for how the children will interact with each other. All right? And how many of y'all have ever seen children in the dramatic play center, and they usually either play mommy, daddy, or teacher? And how many of y'all have ever witnessed a child in dramatic play pretending to be you? And and you're like, I don't sound like that. I don't have that facial expression and that tone. Do you? I don't know. The kids usually get it pretty right. All right. But that affection, that interest, that respect that you give the kids, you're teaching a lot of skills right there. All right. Now, when I walk by a classroom and I hear a teacher going, how many times have I told you? Well, think about that. The way we treat children is the way the children will treat each other. And if you have a teacher that is, then that is creating the blueprint for how the kids will treat one another. And you're not teaching any new skills, and you're not setting the child up for success. All right? So when we talk about engage frequently with the children, now I've talked a lot about 5 minutes of one-on-one time. Reduces power struggles by 50%. All right? Engage non-verbally. All right? So when we talk about engagement with children, it's not just the conversations that I want you to have, but there's non-verbal engagement that is critical in the classroom as well. Smiling, touching, holding. Those of you that work with the younger children, infant, toddler, 2-year-olds, the facial expression. We know the most fascinating object to a child is the human face. All right? Especially your infant toddlers. So your facial expressions are really critical when it comes to engagement. Those of you that work in infant toddler classrooms, you need to be very animated. All right? But really, your facial expressions have to tell the story. Now, what we've talked about a lot here lately is that we're required to wear these masks that cover half of our face. And here I am telling you, step 1 of engagement is the nonverbal, the facial expressions, the smiling, but that's hard when half of your face is covered with a mask. Okay? So what I've been telling all of you your eye contact. Okay? Eye contact, eye-to-eye contact is a window to the soul. Okay, so if you really want to reach in there and connect with that child, lots and lots of eye contact. All right? We're having to do more of that to make up for not being able to see the face. Okay? Y'all know that there's actually scientific research out there now that young children can actually die if they don't have physical touch. That's a big one right there. All right? Your infants, your toddlers, your twos, you know, they need those hugs. They need that comforting. All right? Even your older kids. All right? Your school-age kids. All right? They need that age-appropriate touching and hugging and nurturing right there. But especially when the child is feeling distressed, when their attachment system comes on and the world is not going their way and they're looking for their healthy attachment figure. All right? That touching, that holding, that comforting is really important to these kids for them to feel safe. We talk, the other thing here when we talk about teachers interact frequently with children, you speak to children at eye level, all right? Now, I've said this for many, many years now that, early childhood people that work in this profession, we should have rock-hard thighs, all right? Our legs and everything should be amazing because you're constantly squatting and standing up and squatting and standing up. Stop paying that gym membership. Stop it, all right? What a waste of money. You get all your exercises right there in the classroom with your squatting and your kneeling and your up and your down, and now we're going to do 90 minutes of physical activity with the kids. Man, we're going to be in such great shape, all right? But the reason why it's so important to talk to children at eye level is, that connection that you make with the child. Eye-to-eye contact is the window to the soul, all right? So important right there. You might see this on your worksheet, by the way, on why eye contact is so important. Eye contact is going to show that child that you respect them. All right? Eye contact is going to show the child that you respect them, that you're interested in them, all right? And, you're going to make that connection right there. Now, those of you that participated in my workshop 2 weeks ago on supporting children with special needs, we talked about some of your children that may have signs and symptoms pointing to a special need or a child that has been diagnosed with a disability. Some of them have a very hard time with eye contact, all right? That doesn't mean you give up on them, all right? That means you work on this more. And the way you do this is by doing, rituals in the classroom where you have a little song or a little chant that you do one-on-one with a child that involves eye contact, all right? And when you do it in a playful way, the child is going to be more willing to make that connection with you through eye contact rather than, look at me, all right? Because I've seen that before too, and it doesn't work, does it? It always ends up in a tantrum or a meltdown, all right? And when you say, look at me in the eyes, do it in a respectful fashion, all right? We don't want the child to feel like they're being punished or shamed by saying, look in my eyes, all right? Do it in a way that they don't feel like it's punishment or shame. We want to do it in a meaningful way. So that was a good comment right there. Teachers talk and listen to the children during activities and routines. Now, again, this is something that I've talked about for many, many years now, that if you really want to connect with your children and know what's going on in their lives, we talked in positive guidance and discipline, we talked about factors that cause children to act out, and there are a lot of domestic and environmental factors that cause children to act out. you don't necessarily know what those are. The parent's not going to disclose that to you. All right, the parent may not even know that, something that's going on at home is affecting that child. Listening to the children while they play. All right, the power of observation is so big that while the children are doing child-initiated play, all right, sitting there and just listening to what they're saying while they're playing or while they're doing an activity. So that's why, earlier I said, I hear people say, oh, be quiet, 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 no talking during activity time. Don't do that, all right? Because when they're talking during their activity is when you get to learn a lot about them, all right? And then you get to create conversations out of that. Because remember, when we talked about engagement, a big characteristic of engagement is having something in common with that child, all right? Finding things that you have in common with them. So seek out those meaningful conversations to the kids. And you know that you have had a meaningful conversation with a child when the conversation goes all week long. Y'all know, especially those of you that work in 3- and 4-year-old classrooms, when you have a conversation with a child, a meaningful conversation with a child on Monday, Tuesday they come in, hey teacher, remember yesterday we talked about, my pink comforter on my bed? It also has flowers. And then Wednesday they come in, do you want to talk about my pink comforter with flowers? I also have a pillow, or whatever. But the conversation goes on all week long. Gold star, all right? That means that whatever it was, you had a meaningful conversation because the child wants to continue it, all right? That's pretty cool stuff right there. So seek out those meaningful conversations. And again, connection, connection, connection. You got it right there. And then those of you that are in your infant toddler classrooms, the rest of us are very jealous of you. I'm just going to throw it out there. Here's some secrets for you. People that work in 3- and 4-year-old classroom school age programs, we're a little bit jealous of those infant teachers because you have a wonderful opportunity to have some very intimate one-on-one time with your children, while you're feeding them. All right, you get to feed them, you get to have that diaper changing moment where you get a lot of eye contact, very close, all right, and just those very meaningful connections, during those intimate moments. And that's very difficult in the rest of the classrooms. But for you, those of you that are infant teachers, especially holding that baby and feeding that baby and looking right into their soul, looking right into their eyes, all right? That's some pretty cool stuff right there. So infant toddler teachers, when you're doing the feeding and diapering, take advantage of those critical moments of engagement. You've got some great opportunities right there, all right? When you've got, I'm just looking at a comment that popped up on Facebook Live. If you've got a child that is turning their head on purpose and looking the other way, when you're trying to make that eye contact, here's the best thing to do is, Brandy, your head went like this, and your eyes went like this. What are you looking at? All right, but DNA, describe, notice, and act, all right? Describe and notice is a big thing I want you to see here. But describe, notice the child, describe what they're doing, and then boom, as soon as you say your head turned like this, and your eyes look this way, the child's going to look at you to see what you're doing, all right? The moment they turn and they look, when you do your describe, your notice, make that eye contact, all right? And the second you catch that eye contact, tell me what you're looking at over there, all right? But the moment you make that eye contact, you take a deep breath. And you're going to be amazed that you're going to maintain that eye contact while you download that comm. All right? But describe and notice is going to be very, very helpful when you have that child. That, remember, again, going back to my training on positive guidance and discipline, children turn fear into a game. All right? Children turn fear into a game. So when the world is not going their way, or they're not feeling safe for whatever reason, from the child's perspective, they're going to turn their fear into a game. That's what they do. All right. Let's go on to step 2 of engagement techniques right here. The teacher must be available and responsive to the children. So it is, once again, I talked about, when you walk into the classroom, you got to set aside that garbage. You got to set aside that drama, because you've got to be 100% focused on those kids. You've got to be mentally and physically present, all right, so that you can be available and responsive to the children. They're going to be looking at you all day long to see if they're safe. And your body language and your tone of voice is going to let them know whether they're safe or not. Now, I do a whole training on the attachment system, and what was called the attachment system in our brain. That, your attachment system is offline, and the child can play, they can learn, they can cooperate, they can problem solve when the attachment system is offline. All right? Now, when the world doesn't go their way, when they get triggered, when they don't feel safe, the attachment system comes on. All right? And when the attachment system comes on, they look for their healthy attachment figure to make them feel safe, which is you. All right? You are the healthy attachment figure that's going to nurture them, all right, give structure, give predictability, and make them feel safe. All right? As soon as they find their attachment figure, and the attachment figure is available and responsive, all right, the attachment system will go off, and then the child can go back to playing and learning and problem solving, etc., etc. No learning can take place when the attachment system is online. All right, so when the child is seeking out nurturing, and when they're seeking that out and they need that sense of safety, no learning can take place. Learning can only take place when the attachment system is offline. So being available and responsive to children is really important right there. Now, those of you that work in infant, toddler, 2-year-old classrooms, you know that, you might be feeding another child, or you might be changing a diaper, and you're not going to be immediately available to go comfort and be there for another child, all right? Because you're over here at the diaper changing table with a poopy diaper in your hand, all right? So I'll be there in a minute. We have to figure that balance out right there. The biggest thing right here is that with your engagement and your structure and your routine, all right, even though the child's attachment system goes online and they start seeking out their healthy attachment figure, and you're busy with another child, if the child is aware that you are present and you are aware of their needs and that you will eventually get to them, all right, the attachment system will go offline. All right? That's where you've got to build that trust within that child. I can't be there for you right now, but I will be there as soon as I can. And then you need to be there for them. All right? So, you're going to want to establish that with your young children. All right? Children that are in distress. Now, the younger the child, the quicker you need to get to them. All right? So infant teachers, you need to have a good system in place where you can quickly comfort those infants that are in distress, because we need to establish that trust. The older they get, the bigger the window. All right? But if you have a situation where you have an adult in the classroom that is not connected with the children, that are not engaged with the children, all right, when the attachment system goes on and the child is in distress, they don't trust that person that they're not connected with. They don't trust that you're eventually going to get there, all right, and you're going to have a tantrum, you're going to have a meltdown, and you've got chaos, all right. So again, that engagement, that connection is the key right there. Listen to children with attention and respect, all right? And so I know you're busy. I know you've got 1,000 things going on. Breathe. You've got this, all right? And, listen to them. They got some great things to say right there. Respond to their questions, all right? Respond to their questions and requests. When they ask a question, give them a complete answer. And I know some of you have told me, well, what do you do about these kids that ask you the same question over and over and over again, all right? And I give them the same answer over and over and over again. Well, maybe you're not answering that question the right way, all right? You're not giving the right answer. That's why they keep asking it over and over again. You're not answering the question in a way that they understand, all right? So let's change up our answer. It can still be the same answer, but describe it in a way that the child can understand, all right? But we want to make sure that we answer those right there. We've already talked about placement. Teachers are aware of the activities of the entire group, even when dealing with a smaller group. Now, I don't know your school. I don't know your classroom layout. I don't know where your defined learning centers are. And, everybody that's on this Facebook Live today, all of our classrooms are a little bit different. So when we talk about a plan on how we're going to maintain supervision while also engaging with, one-on-one or with small groups, you're going to have to create a plan on your own, okay, based on your individual classroom layout. All right, so that's where, again, you really need to go back and take a look at your classroom from the child's point of view and determine how you're going to effectively have one-on-one engagement while maintaining supervision of the group. And this is going to be a worksheet question for you where I'm going to actually ask you, how do you plan to maintain supervision of the entire group while having one-on-one time? All right? And that answer is going to be very specific to your classroom. All right? So there you go. Yes, I'm looking at a comment right here, how important it is that we are a huge influence on the children's lives, especially since the latest statistics is that, most of our children, over 75% of the children in this state spend, more of their waking hours with us than they do their own families, all right? 80% of the children that are in our care spend more of their waking hours with us than they do with their families. So, Claudia, that is so right on point with everything we're talking about today. Your engagement with the kids, your connections with the kids is creating the blueprint for the rest of their life. All right. So doing it in a respectful way, being available to the children, being responsive to the children, is going to create available and responsive children. All right. So there you go. And like I said, the power of observation. So a big part of your day is going to be just listening to what the kids are saying and doing. All right. And then you can engage when needed. All right, let's move on now to step 3 of our engagement techniques right here. This one we've kind of already talked about, but I'm going to go a little bit more into detail. But teachers speak with children in a friendly, positive, and courteous manner. All right? we got three different types of interactions right here. You got three different types of people and the way that we communicate with people. You have people that are aggressive, all right, and people that are aggressive, they stand up for their rights, but they ignore the rights of others. So when you have an aggressive tone, all right, you're defending your rights, but you're ignoring the rights of others. When you are passive, all right, you don't protect your own rights. You give up your rights whenever you are a passive person or you're being passive at the moment. An assertive individual, when you're assertive, you're protecting your rights, but you're respecting the rights of others. So when we're engaging with our children, it's very important that we're being assertive, all right? We're not being aggressive, we're not being passive, we're being assertive. I'm going to be respectful of my rights, but I'm also going to be respectful of your rights. So when we talk about, teachers speak with children in a friendly, positive, courteous manner, you can still get the children to meet your expectations. But this is also about, not using confusing words. Words like please and thank you can be very confusing to a child. Now, a lot of times we think, well, that's courteous. That's respectful to say please and thank you. Sometimes, and y'all, this took me a long time to practice to get used to this right here, because I grew up in East Texas, and, I grew up being taught to say please and thank you and everything. But, Jill, can you line up at the door, please? If I say, Jill, can you line up at the door, please? Is that a demand or a request? All right? That's a request. When I said, can you line up at the door, please? That just turned it into a request. And Jill might go, no, thank you. All right? Jill, I need you to line up at the door so that we can go outside. All right? I can say that in a friendly, positive, courteous manner, but when I say, Jill, I need you to line up at the door so that we can go outside, was that a demand or a request? All right? That was, we need to go outside. It was a demand. All right? So sometimes please and thank you can be confusing to the child because they're going, is this an option? Is this a request? Or is it something that they need me to do? All right? So we want to make sure that we're using that assertive tone, but it's done in a friendly, positive, courteous manner. I told you to line up! Now that's aggressive. All right? How many times do I have to tell you? All right? There you go. We've already talked about speaking to children individually as often as possible, at least 5 minutes a day. If you could do more than 5 minutes a day, that's better right there. But make sure that, again, when we're talking to individual children, having that one-on-one time, you've got to make sure that you're doing it with every single child in the classroom daily. If I just have, one-on-one time with 8 of the kids, and there's 2 of them I didn't get to today, trust me, they know it. All right? They know it. So that's why if you got to keep that checklist in your pocket, that's what you need to do. Ask those open-ended questions. Call children by their names. Again, calling people by their names releases those endorphins in the brain. We get joy juice out of that. Include children in conversations, all right? Include children in conversations. Describe your actions. So again, the DNA, describe and notice, describe and notice. Y'all should be talking all day long. All day long. You're talking and describing to the children, what you're doing, what they're doing, describing their actions. Anytime you can pull the face into the conversation, all right? Look at your face. Your face is saying, you don't want to go outside right now, all right? Your face is telling me that you don't want to clean up the blocks. It's hard. It's hard to have to clean up when you're not ready. All right? Your body is telling me that you're tired. You're ready for nap time. All right? And using that type of language, your face is telling me, your body is telling me, is going to make the child conscious of their body language and their tone. This is going to help with their self-esteem right there. But describing those actions, those experiences, all right? And when I talk about describing experiences, you know, again, I've mentioned this in so many of my previous workshops that children must feel safe before they can behave. Children must feel safe before they can learn. So when you're describing experiences in your classroom through your engagement, okay, the more you can use the word safe, the better. All right? Claudia, you pushed in a chair just like this so the other children could be safe. That was helpful, Claudia. All right? Or, you know, Maria, you picked up all of the red blocks so that the other children will be safe. That was helpful, Maria. All right? So you kind of see there that when we're explaining when we're describing our experiences, anytime you can throw safety into it, you know, and I bet, you know, we got over 200 people on this workshop right now. You know, when I said you pushed in the chair just like this so that the other children could be safe, how many of you kind of went, yeah, she did, all right? Or you picked up the block so that the other children will be safe. Oh, yeah, I mean, y'all, many of you probably automatically nodded. Yeah, we're safe, all right? It has a big impact right there. It's pretty cool stuff, too. And with staff as well, staff. And yes, Evelyn, I agree with you too. Be as consistent as possible because remember, what do our young children need? Routine, structure, and predictability. All right, being consistent is going to create that predictability. All right. All right. Let's move on to step 4. How are we doing on time? We're doing okay. My plan was to spend about 2 hours on material, and then that would allow you all time to complete your online worksheet. So I was thinking 2 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours of material, and then you would have an adequate amount of time to complete your worksheet today, because I strongly encourage you complete your worksheet at the end of the training today. Don't wait until, you know, Saturday night, Sunday, Monday, because then you're going to lose some of your information right there. Get her done. Get her done. And oh, by the way, those of you that have not participated in one of our workshops, virtual workshops, we don't take a break. So if at any point you need to go rush and flush, you go take care of yourself, all right? You know, so but because of the being a virtual format, breaks just don't work real well. All right, very good. All right, step number 4 is that, you know, with your engagement, let's everyone take a deep breath on this one, okay? So let's do a belly breath. So you can put your fingers right here, and we're going to breathe in through our nose. Exhale through your mouth. Again. One last time. We want to make sure that belly comes out right there. We're moving that diaphragm, okay? Moving the diaphragm is going to calm the body. So when you're doing breathing activities with your children in your classroom, make sure that diaphragm is moving right there, okay? But 3 deep breaths so that we can calm and get our brain ready for learning right there. All right? So step number 4 is a hot topic right now, and that's why I wanted to do some deep breathing right here. But teachers treat children of all races, religion, family backgrounds, and cultures with equal respect and consideration. Now, we've had a lot of drama in this particular category over the last year. It's been several years, many, many years, but this has been a rough year when it comes to equality and treating people equally and understanding, each person's rights as a human. When you're in your classroom, whatever your beliefs are, all right, whatever your beliefs are, in your classroom, you need to understand that the child did not make those decisions. All right, so whatever their religion is, their family background, their culture, the child didn't make that decision. Someone made that decision for them. So whatever your beliefs are, and if your beliefs may conflict with that child and their family, the child should not be treated any different. All right? It wasn't their choice. And I get very passionate about this particular topic because when we do look at the events that have gone on in our world, over the last several years, not only with the racial differences, the equality differences that are out there, but even the school violence and the shootings and the acts of violence that we have seen over the last 10 years. In our early education programs, we have the most powerful opportunity to change all of this. Okay? We have such an amazing opportunity to teach these children to respect one another, that it's okay for us to be different. All right? We all may have different backgrounds and cultures and beliefs and skin color, but nobody is better than anyone else. We are all equal. All right? And we get to treat everybody equally. And we get to do that in our early education programs, and we get to lay that foundation. All right? We get to lay that foundation. We want this world to be a better place. It's the children in our early education programs that are going to change it. All right? Now, if you don't treat the children of all races, religions, family backgrounds, and cultures with equal respect, if you do treat a child different because of one of those items, then that child is going to grow up, basically living the same life that we have established right now. Full of hatred, full of anger, full of misunderstanding, and it's not going to get any better. So I hope all of you see the amazing opportunity we have in front of us. And we don't want to take that for granted. All right, we don't want to take that for granted. But that means, and this is hard, that means that you may need to put your personal beliefs on the shelf for a moment so that we can treat those children equally. All right? So that kind of got serious, didn't it? That wasn't fun. But it needed to be said right there. It needed to be said. Great. Okay. The next part of this one right here is that teachers provide children of both genders with equal opportunities to take part in all of your activities. So while you're interacting and engaging your children, if you have a boy that goes into dramatic play and wants to put a dress on and a hat, that's okay. All right? If you want to have the girl that goes into the dramatic play center and put on the police uniform or the firefighter's hat, that's okay. All right? And we're going to encourage them and support them and have that age-appropriate play. When we when we're gender biased, or when we treat both genders equally, and we allow the children to, have equal opportunities in these type of activities, we're teaching respect. All right. They're learning to respect the opposite gender. They're learning to appreciate the opposite gender. And they're also, once again, learning that we're all equal, that no gender is any better than the other. All right. That whatever the female, can do, the male can do. Whatever the male can do, the female can do. And that's definitely something that, once again, we've got to take this opportunity to teach that. This is actually a worksheet question, so you're going to see this again here in a little bit. But why is it important to have equal opportunities for both genders through your engagement? And again, it's teaching respect, it's teaching acceptance, it's teaching equality, all right? And just because that boy goes into dramatic play and puts on a dress and, carries a purse, does not mean that, his lifestyle later on in life is going to be whatever. All right. It's just, play. All right. It's just curiosity and play, but it's actually teaching a lot of respect and acceptance. All right. We want to encourage that. This next step is through our engagement. We're going to focus on a lot of self-help skills. All right. Another big part of our job as early educators is to teach self-help skills. That, the adult is not always going to be there to do everything for that child. We want the child to be able to learn to pick up after themselves, to create a safe environment for themselves, all right, and eventually be able to feed and, go to the restroom on their own. So your engagement is going to encourage self-help skills in an age-appropriate way, all right? So, we do this by, helping the children. And this is where, I don't think I've said this yet in today's workshop, but, one of the big roles that we have is to lend skills to children, all right? Children have a bag of skills, and they can only use the skills that are in their bag. So it is our job as adults to lend skills to children until they have that skill in their bag. And a child typically has to practice a new skill 2,000 times in context before they've got it in their bag. All right? So when we're talking about self-help and engagement and self-help, we're doing a lot of lending here. A lot of lending, all right? But working with the children on, picking up toys so that other children will be safe, okay? We need to pick up the red blocks so that we can play with them this afternoon, all right? Right now, we need to put the red blocks in the sanitizing bucket so that they will be available for someone to play with them this afternoon. Because right now with our enhanced health practices, we're sanitizing any toy that a child plays with before another child plays with it. All right, no matter what age group it's in. So we need to put the toy in the disinfecting bucket so that another child can play with it this afternoon. So not only encourage the self-help skill, but kind of give the why behind it. And if you can throw in safety, once again, that's good right there. Look, Sandra spilled her milk, all right? But Sandra, you cleaned up your spill just like this so that the table would be healthy, all right? So again, we're noticing and describing, you cleaned up your spill just like this so that the table would be healthy, all right? Or the table would be safe. I'm trying to throw something else out there for you. The personal grooming, cleaning, washing their hands, making sure that they clean in the bathroom really good after they go potty, those type of things you're going to describe. Caring for the materials. You know, we've talked a lot over the last 8 months about some of our new policies and processes that we have adopted during the pandemic. And what policies and processes are we probably going to keep even after the pandemic, whenever that may be. You know, we have found a lot of really good techniques that are being very effective in the classroom that you're probably going to stick around, you know. Well, one of them that we've had a lot of conversation about is, you know, we right now, every child has their own personal box full of crayons and glue and some manipulatives and sensory items because we want to avoid sharing of material and as, you know, young of an age group as possible. So we've got the little Tupperware containers or boxes or whatnot that's got individual materials in it. Well, what we're seeing with this is that there's a lot more ownership, and we're seeing the children care for their materials a lot better whenever it's individualized. Rather than having a big old bucket of crayons that you just set in the middle of the table, the kids start ripping them, destroying them, throwing them on the floor, and, you know, your consumable items are going in the trash. With the individual items that we have created, we're seeing a lot of the self-help skills and the ownership and the accountability, and the kids are really taking care of their individual supplies. So that's been pretty cool to observe right there, and probably a technique that we will keep in place even after the pandemic right there. So you can look at that one. All right, the next step in engagement, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit right here, is that we want to facilitate the development of responsibility, the development of self-regulation, and the development of self-control. And your engagement is going to lay the foundation for this. Now, the first thing I have to say about, you know, teachers facilitating the development of responsibility, self-regulation, and self-control, your composure is so important to engagement, all right? When you're interacting with your children, okay, your body language, your tone, your energy that you give off is either going to pull the kids in and help you be connected, or push the kids away and make them feel afraid. We want to pull them in and get that connection and have them feel safe. But if we don't practice composure, we're pushing the kids away and they don't feel safe. And when they don't feel safe, tantrums, meltdown, aggressive behavior. So self-regulation starts with the adult. All right, self-regulation starts with the adult. So you've got to practice all of this stuff first. All right, we want to make sure that we're setting clear, consistent, fair limits in the classroom. All right, children need limits. I've said this a couple of times now. The structure, the routine, the predictability, that has to be established. And if you can put all of this in pictures, even better, all right? But we want to have those fair and consistent limits. You know, 2 weeks ago, I did a workshop on for directors on building and maintaining a positive culture. And in that particular workshop, we talked about being a consistent leader, and that you have to be a consistent leader every day. Your employees and your customers should know exactly what kind of response they're going to get from you because you're a consistent leader. No different in the classroom, all right? And when we're facilitating the development of responsibility, self-regulation, and self-control, you're going to do that by being consistent. And I know that was mentioned in our comments earlier. She jumped ahead of me a little bit. But, you know, you're going to do that with consistency right there. Part of, you know, facilitating the development of responsibility, self-regulation, and self-control is that you are aware that mistakes are opportunities to learn. All right? And children are going to make mistakes. All right? Children are going to make mistakes right here. Well, right now, I got people asking if I can repeat 4 and number 5. We're just kind of having conversation right now. So, I mean, if y'all want to kind of list these things out, you can. But, you know, it's kind of all over the board. Step 4 that I talked about was treating children of all races, religions, family backgrounds, and cultures with equal respect and consideration. We had that conversation. 5 is that we encourage self-help skills. All right. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Now we're talking about step 6, facilitating the development of self-regulation. So, you know, what we do in our programs is that when a child makes a mistake, we make sure that they know that they're still loved. All right? Oops, you made a mistake. I still love you. All right? And it's very important for children to understand that when they make a mistake, they're still going to be loved. All right? So many times, and, you know, especially when you have a child that lives in a house where they don't have a healthy attachment figure. They have an attachment figure at the house, but it's not healthy. And some of you might have grown up in this particular house that when you made a mistake, you were punished. And there was no opportunity to learn. There was no discipline. But when you made a mistake, you were punished. And it created a lot of fear and anxiety and frustration. All right? We want to make sure that children know that when they make a mistake, they're still loved. All right? So that creates the opportunity to learn. All right? Oops, you made a mistake. You did not meet the expectations. We'll practice again tomorrow. And if you notice, I use the word practice and not try. All right? You made a commitment this morning to keep it safe. All right? We always make commitments every morning when the children come into the classroom. They make a commitment to keep it safe. We have a safekeeper ritual where the child has a picture of themselves or something, and they pick it up and they drop it in the box, and they make a commitment to keep it safe today. This afternoon, you know, oops, you made a mistake. You made a commitment to keep it safe today, but you hit Patricia on the playground. So, oops, you made a mistake. We'll practice again tomorrow. All right? It's an opportunity to learn. And this is going to be on your worksheet, by the way. All right? That is how important it is to make sure that children still feel loved whenever they make a mistake. All right? We don't want to do that punishment. We don't want to do that shame or that fear. Punishing children does not teach a new skill. The only way you can correct a child's behavior is to teach a new skill. Punishing children does not teach a new skill. That's what we want to get across. But if you want to go back and watch my webinar on positive guidance and discipline, we go really in detail on that right there. And through your facilitation of development of responsibility, self-regulation, and self-control, we're going to encourage the appropriate behavior with constant reminders of what the expectations are. All right? Now, what I like to mention right here, when we encourage appropriate behavior, reminding children of the expectations, and we've talked about this in other workshops too, there's a technique that we use called MAP, Model, Add Visuals, and Practice. The thing I love about mapping and using visuals to help children meet expectations is that visuals never get tired of telling us what to do. And so many times when I talk about step 6, teachers encourage appropriate behavior, patiently reminding children of the expectations. You're like, that's all I do all day long, as I'm constantly telling them. We walk in the classroom like this so that other children are safe, all right? You probably say that 100 times a day. Well, that's where your visuals are going to come in. Visuals never get tired of telling us what to do. I'm reading a comment. It is unconditional love, Elizabeth. I have to agree with you. Yeah, unconditional love and support. And we got to have unconditional love for these kids. All right, especially your ones with challenging behaviors. All right, it's the unconditional love that's going to get you through the day right there. All right, and loving each child equally. Very good comment right there. All right, so but again, and y'all might have noticed too that in so many of the examples that I've given with engagement, you know, we walk in the classroom just like this, so that the other children are safe. And you're going to demonstrate how to walk across the classroom. You pushed in your chair just like this. You wiped up the spill just like this. So when we're facilitating the development of responsibility, self-regulation, and self-control, you're not just telling them, you're showing them. All right? You're showing them what they just did. All right, that's helping the rest of the classroom. That's benefiting the other children. So there's so much engagement right here. All right, so much engagement right here with you describing, you noticing, you showing them. All right, you're acting on it. That's good stuff. Now, of course, when we are facilitating the development of self-regulation through engagement, obviously, corporal punishment or other negative discipline methods that hurt, humiliate, or frighten children are prohibited in our licensed programs. And so that is a minimum standard rule, that you cannot use corporal punishment or any type of punishment that hurts, humiliates, or frightens children. Since we're talking about engagement today, the part that I really want you to focus on here is whatever consequence you're imposing, is it humiliating or frightening the children? All right? I don't think y'all are hurting them. I hope you're not hurting them. But you might be humiliating them. So we need to be very conscious and aware of that right there. Of course, again, child care licensing says that when we are developing self-regulation in children, food and beverage can never be withheld as a form of punishment. That is a minimum standard violation right there. And the new standard that is coming out is that physical activity cannot be withheld as a form of discipline or punishment. So you can't take away their outside time. You can't take away their movement time. I'm so happy about this one right here. And when you are, facilitating the development of responsibility and self-regulation, I want you to do a little bit of homework right here. And I want you to kind of spend some time this next week paying very close attention to the number of times a day you say no. All right? And I encourage you to, get a sheet of paper and, every time you say the word no, put a tick mark next to it. And at the end of the day, I want you to tally it up. And how many times did you say no? I bet you're thinking about it right now, aren't you? How many of you are thinking about, I do say no a lot, all right? The reason why I want you to be aware of this, that when you're engaging children, all right, young children, their brain is wired to be defiant, all right? And they don't understand what the word don't means, all right? How many of y'all have ever, said to a child, don't touch the cup? And as soon as you say, don't touch the cup, what do? I just told you don't touch it. because the way their brain is wired right now, what they heard was touch the cup. All right? So we need to be telling children what they can do, not what they can't do. All right? And again, this is a worksheet question right here. All right? You need to be telling them what they can do. That's what the brain understands. You can touch the stuffed animal over in dramatic play. All right? Instead of saying, don't touch the cup, you can touch the stuffed animal over in dramatic play. Or you can touch the sensory board that's hanging on the wall over here. All right? You can walk across the classroom just like this. Instead of going, no running, no running. All right? You can walk across the classroom just like this. Practice with me right now. All right? That's what you're going to do instead of, no running. How many times have I told y'all no running in the classroom? Okay, you can walk across the classroom just like this. Let's practice now. All right? That's what's going to be helpful for you. The next step in proper engagement techniques is that the overall sound of the group is pleasant most of the time. And I added in that most of the time because, hey, we're dealing with young children here, all right? Are you going to have chaos from time to time? Yeah, all right. Are your kids going to get rowdy and loud every once in a while? Yeah, all right. So yeah, the overall sound of the group is pleasant most of the time. What I really want you to focus on here is that, when someone is standing outside of your classroom, what do they hear? All right. We want them to hear happy laughter, excitement, busy activity, pleasant conversations, rather than harsh conversations, pleasant conversations, no stressful noise, no enforced quiet, all right? That we want that happy laughter, that excitement, that those just energetic, happy kids, all right? We don't want the teacher's voice to be dominant, all right? We don't want the teacher's voice to be the dominant voice, okay? The children should have the dominant voice, but it should be happy and positive sounds, all right? Rather than screaming and crying and the teacher yelling. That's not going to help with your engagement. Now, the reason why I put this one in here is that, I really want people to understand that when you are trying to get a child to meet your expectations and you're trying to get their attention, we tend to want to talk louder rather than softer. But in reality, when I stop and I take a deep breath, okay, kids, it's time for everyone to come to circle time so that we can read today's book. Okay? Slowing down and talking softer, you're more likely to get their attention and the children to meet expectations rather than you screaming at the top of your lungs. All right? And veins popping out of your forehead and all of that stuff. All right? So, that's going to help with the overall sound of the group. Now, when you practice this, and you're going to have to practice, okay? When you practice this, I'm going to stop, take a deep breath, and I'm going to talk slower and softer to get the children's attention, to have them meet expectations. Now, I want to go back to something I said a little bit ago, all right? The way we treat children, the way we engage our children is the way the children will engage each other. So if that's my engagement, then I'm going to stop, take a deep breath, slow down, and talk softer, then I'm lending that skill to the children. So when the children are engaging with each other, they're going to do the same thing. When they start feeling triggered, they're going to slow down. All right, take a deep breath, talk slower, talk softer. It's pretty cool stuff, all right? But again, y'all are not going to be able to go into your classrooms on Monday and practice this and then go, well, it didn't work. I tried what Tim said in that webinar on Saturday. I just tried it and it didn't work, all right? It's not going to work the first time. Oh, it might. It might. You're going to have to practice this, all right? Practice, practice, practice. There you go. Myra, I think it's Myra. This is one of the simplest and best techniques. Thank you. I love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I show everyone I train, how to do that. It's good stuff, right? But again, it's just our natural knee-jerk reaction is to talk louder and faster. When in reality, we need to breathe, slow down, and talk, a calmer down right there. Good stuff. All right. The next step in our engagement techniques is that we support children's emotional development, all right? Assisting them to be comfortable, relaxed, happy, and involved in play with others. When I work with 2-year-old teachers, when I'm coaching 2-year-old teachers, I hear this quite often. That child does not know how to share, all right? Yeah, they don't. You're not born with the ability to share, all right? It's actually just the opposite. We're born, thinking the world revolves around us, all right? And even usually the first year of life, they're made to believe the world revolves around them. So we have to learn that skill of cooperation, that skill of sharing. That's something that has to be taught, and we're going to do that by practicing and by supporting their emotional development, all right? Some children, we talked earlier about environmental factors, domestic factors, seasonal factors that cause children to act out. Physical factors could play into this as well, where they are struggling with these social skills and they're struggling with the ability to interact with other children. So these are opportunities for us to teach. These are opportunities where our engagement is going to be critical to their emotional, development. All right. So, comfort and reassure children who are hurt, fearful, or otherwise upset, all right, because once they know that their healthy attachment figure is available, all right, they're going to be able to self-soothe. You may not be able to get there immediately, but as long as they know you're eventually going to get there, it makes a big difference right there. Help children deal with anger and frustration and sadness by comforting them, by identifying, by reflecting on those feelings, by making sure they understand that it's okay to have a feeling. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel frustrated. And then we're going to practice those self-regulation techniques with them. And again, if you want to go back to my workshop on positive guidance and discipline, we spend the entire session on that. Intervene quickly when children's responses to each other become physical, and again, going back to our positive guidance and discipline, always go to victim first, aggressor second, all right? Victim first, aggressor second. But we do need to be available so that we can intervene quickly, all right? But don't solve the problem for them. We have to coach them. With our engagement, we're going to coach them on problem solving, but sometimes because we're so busy and we've got so much going on, we just try to solve the problem for them so we can move on. Well, we're not teaching them, we're not lending them any skills. So we're going to intervene quickly, and then we're going to lend the skills of problem solving. All right? And encourage your children to verbalize their feelings and ideas, okay? Both positive and negative emotions. Those words, supply the words that they need to help with the solutions and describing those feelings right there. And we've done this a lot in today's workshop, where your face is telling me that you don't want to be bothered right now. Your face is telling me that you're frustrated right now. All right? You don't know what words to use to tell the other children, I don't want to play right now. All right? So let me help you. All right? Tell the other children, whatever. But your face is telling me, your body is telling me that you're frustrated right now, but you don't know what words to use. So we're going to lend those words to the child and we're going to practice with them. All right? So there you go on that one. Step 9 is that teachers recognize and encourage social development. So that pro-social behaviors amongst children. So again, the cooperation, the helping them take turns, the helping them solve problems, helping them understand empathy. All right. So, step 9 is all about teaching the children empathy through our engagement, to be aware of other people's feelings right there, to support the beginning of friendships, and to provide that opportunity for children to learn from each other as well as adults. And once again, I'm going to go back to the equality on this one. All right, we can all learn from each other, and that's okay. All right, one of my favorite quotes, and I use this in leadership trainings a lot. One of my favorite quotes is that every single person comes into our life for a reason. They're either a lesson or a blessing, and sometimes both. All right, but I kind of find that to be true with the children in your classroom too. Every single child that comes into your classroom for a reason. All right, they're a lesson or a blessing. All right, we're going to learn something from them. So there you go. So and I'm just going to say this right now because I was going to say this towards the end, but I know that you have some children in your classroom that it's very hard to engage in conversation with them and to connect with them. You've got some children that have behaviors and personalities that it's hard, all right? But I want y'all to remember that child is in your classroom for a reason. Not because the parent enrolled that child in your school, not because the director put that child on your roster, but a power much greater than all of us put that child in your classroom. That child is there for a reason. You have an opportunity, all right? You have an opportunity to make a difference in that child's life. So keep that in mind right there. So, we want to encourage that pro-social behavior, those beginning social skills with our infants by doing tummy time and putting children face-to-face with one another so that they can see each other's faces in a safe manner. We want to provide multiple items of the same item in the classroom to help teach that cooperation and sharing. So in your toddler 2-year-old classroom, you want to have 2 or 3 of the same item. And especially right now with our enhanced health practices, you want to keep that in mind. You want to encourage small groups, all right? And you're going to work and engage in small groups with your preschool children. Just remember, don't say, okay, all the girls come over here and then all the boys go over there. We talked about being equal when it comes to genders. So when you are working in small groups, make sure that you've got a nice mixed group, of different kids right there. But the small group activity is going to help with that pro-social behavior. All right. And the last step that I've got right here is that teachers use a variety of teaching strategies to enhance the children's learning and development throughout the day. So you've got to keep it fresh. All right. And this is, like I said, I saved this one for the end because when we're talking about engagement with the children, you got to keep it fresh and interesting. If you do the same thing every single day, the kids are eventually going to get bored with it and they're going to get bored with you. All right. So we're going to use a variety of different strategies to enhance the children's learning and to engage with them. And that's where I'm going to go way back to the beginning of today's workshop and talk about the key ingredients of engagement. And we talked about the individual characteristics of the adult. You got to have a lot of personalities in there, okay? So everyone watching this webinar, you got to have a lot of different personalities, so that when you go into that classroom, you can be animated, and you can be spontaneous, and you can be exciting, and you can be interesting to the kids, all right? Make them laugh, make them smile, make them feel safe. But we're going to do that through a variety of different teaching strategies. Stimulate their thinking and extend their learning using different verbal methods, posing problems, asking those questions, making comments and suggestions, and you're going to do it in a very dramatic, spontaneous way. Introduce your children to as many new experiences as possible. All right? Introduce them to as many new experiences as possible. New ideas, new challenges. And when we talk about, using a variety of different teaching strategies and introducing children to new experiences and ideas, the one learning center that is like the secret to success with engagement, all right? It's like you're reaching into your bag of tricks and you're pulling out, the big one. You're pulling out the big trick that's going to really enhance your engagement with the children. The one learning center that can do this, science, all right? And we tend to put science on a shelf. And we tend to not use science in our early education classrooms as often as we should. But when we talk about new experiences and new ideas and new challenges, science is fascinating to young children. It's fascinating to adults too, all right? But do you know how much engagement and conversation and, excitement comes from science experiments and science activities? If you're really trying to reach your kids and you're trying to connect with your kids, man, I'd be pulling out as much science as possible. All right? That's some good stuff right there. Good stuff. All right. What happened to my watch? All right, how are we doing on time? Oh, look at that. We are right on target. I love it when that happens right there. So I'm just going to go over a few final helpful tips, and it's kind of a review of some of the material that we've talked about today. When you're in your classroom, always smile and laugh. And I want to remind you what an amazing, career we have, where we get to come to work every day and we get paid to play. That is so cool, all right? We want to make all of our friends and relatives jealous of this amazing opportunity that we have. And remember, it's not a job, it's a purpose, all right? It's not a job, it's a purpose. But always smile and laugh. When I do leadership trainings, I say this all the time. One of the greatest characteristics that you need as an adult, I'm going to just say as an adult, is the ability to laugh at yourself. And, we're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to do stupid things. But, your ability to be able to laugh at yourself. And we've got to be able to laugh at this world that we live in, especially right now. We've got to find the joy, all right? So my recommendation to you is to have fun, all right? Get down at the child's eye level. Interact with them as much as possible and smile and laugh. All right? Smile and laugh as much as possible. Respect the children. All right? Look them in the eye. Create that eye contact. Eye-to-eye contact is a window to the soul. All right? Remember that mistakes are opportunities to love. When a child makes a mistake, they have to know that they are still loved. But we want to create that respectful bond. That's going to help with your healthy attachment figure. Be very, very conscious of your tone of voice, all right? Be very, very conscious of that. If you need to put up a visual reminder, you know, sometimes the visual reminders that that we put around the classroom is more for the adult than it is the child, all right? But sometimes we need our reminders of what the expectations are. But the tone of voice is a big one. And I know, you know, it's been a long time since I worked in a classroom full time. But I remember the beginning of my career, whenever I taught pre-K and when I taught kindergarten, I used to get in trouble a lot. I know that's hard to believe, but I used to get in trouble a lot. Because, you know, my administrator used to come down the hallway and say, Tim, you need to lower your voice. We could hear you all the way up in the office. Stop screaming at the kids. And I was like, I'm not screaming at the kids, you know. I'm loud, okay? I came from East Texas. I have a very loud family. We just have voices that carry. But, you know, I learned really, really quickly that, you know, how that was perceived. And people constantly thought I was screaming at the kids. I really wasn't. It was just, that's just my voice, you know. So I had to become very, very aware of my tone, you know, early on in my career right there. All right. Ask the children about their day. All right. Listen to their responses. Ask the children about their evening. All right. Listen for their responses. And you know, don't just say, "Tell what'd you do last night?" You know, hey, did you get to go to your brother's soccer game after school yesterday? Tell me about your brother's soccer game. So be a little bit more specific so that you can open up that conversation if you're aware of something that they potentially did at home over the weekend or at night. All right? But we want to initiate those conversations with them. Encourage that non-biased classroom we talked about. Make sure that you've got that structure, that routine, that predictability. So that's going to create limits. All right, we want that right there for you. I love soft music playing. I'm a big, big advocate for music in the classroom all the time. But soft music. Y'all know one of my biggest pet peeves is nap time. When the music is turned up so loud, the kids' ears are bleeding. And I'm like, why is the music so loud? It's to put the kids asleep. That ain't going to put anyone to sleep, all right? That's going to make their ears bleed. It needs to be soft music, soft music. But so many times I walk into a nap room and it's blasting, and I'm like, turn it down, all right? Soft music right there, soft voices. We need to lead by example right here, lead by example. And of course, encourage those self-help skills, all right? Your self-help skills throughout the day. All right, fantastic. We did it. And we're right on time. You're going to have plenty of time to complete your online worksheet. So, did you enjoy today's presentation? Did you enjoy today's workshop? Someone type on Facebook Live, what is the most valuable piece of information you wrote down from today's workshop? Oh, you're welcome, Carmen. You're welcome. So someone write down a most valuable piece of information from today's workshop. If you can write that down for me. Good. And someone asked me to repeat step 5. And so that was self-help skills. So step 5 was to encourage self-help skills with the kids. All right. So let me go ahead and tell you a little bit about the online worksheet. So that is already posted on Facebook. So it should be there now. So you might need to refresh your browser, go up to the most recent post. There is a online worksheet if paying with a credit card. And that's $15 for 3 hours of training. Or if you set up an online account with me prior to this workshop, you have a 5-digit account number. You're going to click on that. That says online worksheet paying with account number. Here's some of my most valuable pieces of information. Mistakes are okay, all right? Mistakes are okay, and you're still loved even though you've made a mistake. Treat other people with respect. Yes, lots of information today that was shared is what we're getting right there. All right. If they're repeating the question, change your answer. That's an important one right there too. Again, treating children with respect. I see popping up. Respect and love. Love unconditionally. Love unconditionally. All right. So, very good. Like I said, check out my website, timthetrainer.com. I have another teacher workshop, director and teacher workshop scheduled for November. I added an additional one in there. I also have my 2021 spring calendar that is posted on my website as well. I miss being with all of you in person. I can't wait till we can do weekend mini conferences at the hotel again, but I went ahead and made the decision to continue with these virtual workshops for the beginning part of 2021. We just don't know what the world is going to look like yet, and so I felt it was in the best interest of everyone just to continue to do these virtually for at least the first half of 2021. So you can see the schedule is on my website for both Friday and Saturday. And then also my 4-day director credential course, my schedule is posted for the first half of 2021 as well. And once again, we're going to keep it the same that we're doing it now. It's going to be a blended, so you can either participate in person or virtually. That seems to be working pretty good for everyone. So again, because we just don't know what the world is going to look like, we're going to do that the same way. We are, however, continuing with our training cruises. And so we have a training cruise scheduled for January, and we have a director's training cruise scheduled for April. We're pretty optimistic that the cruise ships will be back up and running by then. So that one, you can't participate virtually because I'm not taking you into the ocean with me. But you can get information on our website for our upcoming training cruises. We need them badly. All right, badly. All right, y'all get to work on your online worksheets. I look forward to seeing your responses. And once you submit your worksheet, then your certificate will be emailed to you. I say within 72 hours. I usually get them in within 24 hours, just depending on what I've got going on. So, but that online worksheet is available on Facebook. It is there now. So you may need to refresh your browser or just go back up to the most recent post and you'll see that. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful weekend, and I will see everyone very, very soon. Thanks a lot.